The Duchess of Orleans, the Italian Valentina, captivated many in France. Exceptionally intelligent and well-educated, she was also stunningly beautiful. The women of the royal court were consumed with envy. Even her husband was a handsome man, and she had wealth beyond measure. King Charles VI adored his sister and listened to her more than to his wife, Isabella of Bavaria. The ranks of the disgruntled grew, but Valentina had no idea that her greatest rival was Duchess Margaret of Burgundy. In truth, the two ladies had little to compete over. The wife of the Duke of Burgundy was the heiress of Flanders, meaning she was fabulously wealthy. She held a high position at court and had considerable influence, but she could never compare to Valentina. The Duchess was almost 20 years younger and slightly closer to the throne. After all, the Duke of Burgundy was the king's uncle, while the Duke of Orleans, Valentina's husband, was his brother. Thus, Madame Burgundy was expected to bow to the Italian beauty when they met. Valentina arrived in Paris at the end of the 14th century when she was married to Louis of Orleans, and at first, everything went smoothly. King Charles VI welcomed his brother's wife with open arms. No other woman at the time could match Valentina's intelligence, and the king had a fondness for clever ladies. The Duke of Burgundy presented her with a golden pitcher adorned with precious stones to celebrate their acquaintance. On Christmas, Valentina received 2 gold ornaments set with 9 enormous pearls and enamel inlays, also from the Burgundians. The Duchess of Orleans also showed concern for her new relatives. When the Duke of Burgundy's son fell gravely ill, Valentina's personal physician treated him. She was even willing to ride through the forest for hours because the king loved hunting. Such tender familial bonds. But Valentina was simply too beautiful. Court poets began to fervently praise the Duchess's lovely hair, her fair complexion, and her enchanting eyes. The queen knew she would always be the first at court, and this hardly bothered her. However, the Duchess of Burgundy was furious. She was known as the most arrogant and unpleasant of all. Never receiving the honor of being celebrated herself, she found the admiration for Valentina infuriating. "She's too beautiful. She must leave," the Duchess insisted. Now, she just needed to figure out how to make that happen. Soon, the king experienced an episode of madness. Charles VI would be remembered among kings as Charles the Mad. Upon seeing the Duchess of Burgundy, he shouted, "What a hideous woman!" But when he laid eyes on Valentina, the king became gentle as a lamb. Naturally, the lady from Burgundy did everything in her power to spread the rumor that Valentina of Orleans had enchanted the king. Surely, she was aiming for the throne. Isabella of Bavaria joined in the harassment, eagerly speculating that Valentina's father, Galeazzo Visconti, the ruler of Milan, was a practitioner of magic. And since the king's doctors were of no help, they tried but failed. Whispers spread through the capital that the Italian woman was involved in dark dealings. She continued her sorcery. Even Valentina's sorrow was turned against her. Her son, a 4-year-old boy, suddenly passed away. At the behest of Margaret of Burgundy, a story circulated that Valentina had prepared a poisoned apple for the Dauphin, but her own son accidentally ate it instead. There was no evidence against the Duchess, but the people easily believed the rumor. In the 14th century, tales of poisonings and witchcraft were taken very seriously. As a result, stones were thrown at the windows of the Hotel de St. Paul, where Valentina lived. The situation was turning dire, and Duke Louis of Orleans made a crucial decision. It was best for his wife to leave Paris for her own safety. Marshal de Sancerre was entrusted with escorting Valentina to the provinces, to her husband's estates. The carts were loaded for several days and nights. Valentina set off on her journey. She headed to the Château d'Anet in the county of Beaumont. From that point on, she never stayed long in Paris again. It had become dangerous not only for her but for her entire family. The time of intrigue and turmoil had begun. At the start of the 15th century, her husband, the Duke of Orleans, was murdered in the capital. Valentina loved her husband dearly and could not bear the loss. She passed away a year later. But the main schemer, Duchess Margaret of Burgundy, did not have the chance to rejoice in this turn of events. 2 years prior, she herself had departed for the afterlife. As the court whispered, it was from anger. The Duchess had suffered a stroke while berating a slow-witted lady-in-waiting.